Welcome to Book 2 in the Horrors and Hoagies series, Tortured Souls. In this, we will cover Chapter 17. We encourage you to immerse yourself in the exciting events that unfold. From thrilling action scenes to heart-pumping moments of suspense, Tortured Souls is sure to keep you on the edge of your seat. We appreciate your support and hope that you continue to enjoy the journey we have in store for you. Chapter 17, Wars and Memories of Wars.
Dominic's nightmares waited for him each time he closed his eyes. Wartime nightmares, the kind a guy doesn't get over. When he was lucky, they would have moments of sanity, but these moments were eclipsed by bloodshed and terror. A group of soldiers gathered around a small fire amid the remains of an old farmhouse. The structure was reduced to a few walls and damaged timber after 3 days of intense warfare. The area had been bombarded with bullets and grenades since the arrival of American troops. Thanks to a daring raid by the Yankees, the opposition's leadership had been wiped out, leaving them outnumbered. It led to utter chaos as the followers of Darius Riddick, known as the Thulian subcult, saw no purpose in sparing the lives or homes of the unfortunate villagers they had claimed for their mysterious rituals. After surviving bullets and grenades, they resorted to summoning a horrifying creature to finish the job. The monster, with its tangled tentacles and deadly presence, crept towards the flickering firelight of the American stronghold. Its advance was as silent as the first night without the sound of gunfire since the assassination. They were at their breaking point. They were exhausted from endless fighting, surrounded by bloodthirsty enemies, and starving. The creature had followed one soldier back to their redoubt as he attempted to find food. He had been quick and quiet enough to evade his mortal enemies, but not the eldritch creature. It knew its patience in stalking the man back to his companions would allow it to approach undetected. Finding a nearby corpse for a modest disguise, it draped itself in human garb. It would not pass scrutiny but would be a tool for crossing the last few precious feet to its dinner. Dom was stripping the last bits of meat from a scrawny rabbit when he noticed a figure in a cloak watching him. The figure moved silently from one soldier to another, but Dom was too tired to pay attention. He collapsed into a corner, seeking shelter from the wind. He gathered the remaining scraps of flesh and placed them between 2 stale crackers from his kit with trembling fingers. As Dom brought the pitiful meal to his lips, tears of frustration streamed down his cheeks. It wouldn't do much to ease his gnawing hunger, but it was more food than he had eaten in 2 days. Finally, Dom's brain snapped into action as he looked up and saw the mysterious figure. Among the countless dead bodies dressed in thick wool clothing, his exhausted mind assumed the cloaked figure was another starving local forced to leave their home. But something felt off. He offered the poor soul the tiny meal he had crafted for himself. If he was suffering, the people of the tiny locale must have been through hell. He could find a way to keep moving, but they were likely at death's door. Damn it, Dom, this doesn't make any sense. Trembling tentacles reluctantly accepted the offering. Its acceptance of his gift, given earnestly, had struck something deep inside of it. Something sacred had happened and caused changes.
Get out of there. It is going to kill you,
screamed Dom's brain.
Hey, kiddo, you look down. Troragite Virgit.
He knew the war was destroying too many lives for him to do anything less than help this kid. It was small, its tentacles quivered in hunger. He couldn't tell. He knew he could try to give them a glimpse of hope. Dom removed his necklace. It was a trifle with a locket sent from his adoptive father. He desperately wished he could see that jerk again, even if it was to say sorry for running away. Being in the middle of the war put his life into perspective in ways he had never known possible. Even so, he valued his memories of the man more than his gifts. The kid could use it more than he could, so he offered it. Trying his best to recite the encryption on the back of the locket he managed.
Sotgat kan nicht mehr nu ausplatiert worden, wie lang es vom Patchen fernt war.
He was sure he butchered it but probably got across that a pumpkin seed can grow even when far from its patch. Close enough. The creature carefully opened the silver locket to find a pumpkin seed within. It did not know the words accompanying such a grand gift, nor if the soldier offering it had any idea as to the implications of such offerings. It felt genuinely grateful, an emotion alien to it until now but not an unwelcome one. Another place, another time, amongst the carnage of war. The creature, now sporting the first vestiges of a green beard in place of a head, clung to Dom's shoulders like an oversized parrot. It gave it an excellent vantage point and a good position to leap from to defend its master, no, its boss. The whole fire team called him that. It assumed it was a superior moniker to master, as it was granted reverent obedience from subordinates. They found themselves trapped behind a short cobblestone barrier. On the other side were German soldiers with a peculiar emblem, unlike the skulls and lightning bolts worn by their comrades. These soldiers had an octopus with bat wings insignia. Suddenly, one of the soldiers tossed a potato masher grenade over the wall, landing it near the duo. To the creature, it seemed like nothing more than a can with a wooden handle, and it eagerly pounced on it like a new toy. In a moment of inspiration, the creature absorbed the explosive into itself and leaped over the wall, hoping to return the lost item to its rightful owner.
Damn it, you seed-brained idiot!
Dom shouted as he chased after it, disregarding the danger of being shot at. He pursued the creature until the explosive it was holding went off. The blast obliterated the creature and a significant portion of the enemy forces. Once the Germans fled, Dom led his squad to inspect the casualties. He walked towards where his incredibly courageous, albeit reckless, former comrade had fallen.
If only I'd known.
As he observed, the largest piece transformed, growing tiny arms and legs, while the green pumpkin flesh seamlessly stitched itself back together. Initially, he believed the pumpkin to be incomplete, but he couldn't help but be amused when he discovered that it had created gaps in its reassembled head to resemble a face. It was a rough and distorted creation, more reminiscent of a jack-o'-lantern than a human being. He was learning quickly. The swirling images of madness woven with a pungent odor he could not place. Vivid images of cheese falling on delicately sliced meat danced through his subconscious, blotting out any previous memories of the horrors of war. The jarring change befuddled the detective's brain until the sleep loosened its grip. His senses forced him to wake to the aroma of pastrami on rye. The wonderful aroma coaxed him from fitful sleep as he rearranged his bones. Overwhelmed by exhaustion, he fell into a deep slumber without caring about his posture. His only option was to sleep haphazardly on his desk and chair. This was too slow for the bearer of the meal. The sudden impact of a parcel slapped on the desk, inches from his face. The resulting spatter assaulted his unprepared face as a random tomato slice rolled and bounced into his shirt. His eyes shot open as his fight or flight response kicked in. His body froze in surprise and horror at the shock. He was on the border of panic like an animal attacked until he saw the stubborn orange face of the assaulting party. Standing between Dom's bleary eyes and the baleful ceiling light of his office was a villain. It had its arms crossed in defiance, hat tipped in a challenge, and jagged maw arranged into orange holes of mirth. It was the seed-brained, sticky-vinned, sleep-stealing, sandwich-molesting, desk-slopping assistant. Dom was seething with anger, like a volcano about to erupt. He stood up abruptly, towering over his desk like a raging inferno. His face twisted with an insatiable urge to punish the culprit. However, his fury was short-lived as a tomato rolled down his shirt, distracting him from his rage.
"Jackie, damn it!"
he exclaimed, his rational mind taking over and pushing aside the primal instincts that surfaced when he woke up to unexpected food. His pumpkin companion had a perplexed look on its face.
"Hey boss, I got you a sandwich. You're supposed to show gratitude when someone is so generous."
A drop of olive oil dripped from Jackie's chin, landing directly on the open briefing and causing the handwritten notes to become distorted and stained. Dom's left eye twitched. Something was not right. Jackie's usual gifts were scraps and leftovers from mostly eaten sandwiches. The pumpkin only brought home this much food without a fight when it was scared for Dom's safety or had made a serious mistake. It happened about as often as pigs sprouted wings and flew like tiny pigeons. Dom glanced over his cluttered desk, taking in the documents related to his case, including police reports that he suspected were obtained through bribery or blackmail, as well as photos from the Canadian border guard. The mess was made worse by the oil and vegetable debris covering everything.
Jackie.
Dom's tone was even as he focused on the matter at hand.
What's up, boss?
What type of sandwich is this, Jackie?
Jackie furrowed his brow in thought.
You know, boss, I was wondering the same thing.
The pumpkin on the desk leaned in, prompting Dom to shoo it away before it could steal his snack.
Smells like pastrami on rye, boss.
But pastrami on rye doesn't have enough oil to drench me like this. What type of sandwich is it, Jackie?
Jackie grinned mischievously.
Well, boss, then it's a bit of a mystery.
Dom interrupted him, finally grasping the true horror presented on his desk. Whenever his pint-sized partner was concerned or simply delighted to have the detective in his life, he resembled a cat. Jackie attempted to express his love by bringing gifts, but instead of dead birds or mice, he presented the remains of demolished sandwiches.
Jackie, I'm genuinely afraid to ask, but how many sandwiches perished to create this monstrosity?
Dom prodded the oozing mess to emphasize his point. Jackie's facial orifices sealed shut as he delved into deep calculations. After tallying his findings, he reopened his mouth and responded confidently.
I won't lie to you, boss. I reckon there are approximately 5 sandwiches involved.
Dom nodded knowingly, taking his time to absorb the situation. As Jackie was about to break the tense silence, the detective nonchalantly shrugged, settled into his chair, and removed the remnants of the sandwich from where they had landed. With the first bite, his body recognized the urgent need for calories and nutrients. Without hesitation, he devoured his breakfast with enthusiasm. Seeing the boss eat breakfast instead of drinking it, Jackie grinned with satisfaction. He casually tossed his hat onto the questionably stable coat rack, pausing briefly to ensure it wouldn't topple over. Jackie quickly approached Dom's desk drawers, navigating the chaos of unfinished cases. Jackie couldn't help but chuckle at the boss's insatiable appetite, but then he remembered something else that would surely surprise him.
Boss, I've solved the case. It turns out those birds that were stealing sandwiches have vanished into thin air. I doubt they'll bother any innocent sandwiches again.
Dom looked at Jackie, his mouth full of a peculiar mix of sandwich fillings, and asked,
How did that happen?
Jackie shrugged once more and replied,
Well, as far as I can tell, there are no more birds in the city. They've all disappeared.
Deep in thought, Dom took another bite. Jackie was known for his honesty and had gone all out to prove himself a real detective. It could be the breakthrough he had been waiting for. The first question that escaped his mouth was,
Why did the birds leave the city, Jackie?
With a sense of unease, Jackie believed it had something to do with Dom's secret case. Determined to assist, he threw a hastily made newspaper onto the desk in front of Dom. The attention-grabbing headline on the front page read,
2 guards slain at local museum.
Initially, Dom didn't make the connection. His mind raced through various possibilities until his eyes landed on a picture taken at the Canadian border. Concealed amidst the white powder was a cargo truck. The cargo compartment was open, revealing a barely visible shipping crate. The crate appeared like any other cargo traversing the globe to different destinations. The origin stamp, though faint, displayed twin palms and a triangle, with the word Cairo linking it all together. Dom's mind pondered the possibility of dangerous war criminals who were involved in the occult, who made their way to his city from a Canadian port carrying a crate from Egypt. Egypt is known for its ancient culture and valuable artifacts. The appearance of 2 dead guards at a museum seemed to be a lead in the case. Quickly finishing his breakfast, Dom thanked Jackie for the good work. He asked when the newspaper article was published. Jackie pointed towards the office door and replied,
I grabbed it fresh off the press on my way in, boss.
Dom opened a drawer in his desk and took out a leather double-shoulder holster. Inside were two 1911 handguns, the words "Life" and "Death" in Latin engraved on the grips. With practiced ease, he armed himself with the weapons. Donning his trusty coat and hat, Dom prepared to leave. He quickly grabbed the heavy gun case and camera he acquired from Lorenzo, with Jackie following closely behind. The detective and his apprentice were already out of the office and descending the stairs before the door closed. The museum was still under police lockdown when the detective duo showed up. Despite Dom's attempts to negotiate and show his credentials, they could not get past the barricades. It was not their lucky day to try and gain access to a secured crime scene. However, there was a silver lining: the police were stretched thin, creating opportunities to sneak in. Taking advantage of one such opportunity, they slipped under the barricades around the loading dock and quietly approached the bay doors. Encountering locked doors, Jackie skillfully used his nimble fingers to pry open the door and allow him entry. The museum remained dimly lit, with closed windows and lights turned off, knowing there would be no visitors to explore the exhibits. As they ventured towards the rear rooms, they stumbled upon a murder scene. A short distance away, detectives from the local police department were meticulously examining the inventory and discussing the case, resembling inexperienced rookies fresh out of the academy. Meanwhile, a police officer interviewed a potential witness near the security booth. Unnoticed, the two private investigators slipped into the shadows, searching for a suitable hiding spot. Dom had observed that, whether supernatural or not, people often disregarded most things around them when engrossed in their work. Jackie and Dom exchanged nods before Dom disappeared into the shadows. He fumbled with his newly acquired camera, trying to figure out how to use it. Lorenzo had made it look easy, but it seemed to have a grudge against Dom. It took him over a minute to learn how the darn thing worked. Meanwhile, Jackie positioned himself above, likely on the rafters or the top of a shelving unit, to get a better view. He would tap into his magical abilities, hoping to uncover something valuable. It was a useful trick for any detective well versed in the supernatural. Dom murmured menacingly to the camera, making empty threats about turning it into a vase if it didn't perform. He couldn't deny that he was quite excited to test out the contraption he held in his hand. The initial demonstration had been convincing, but now it was time to see if it worked in the field. He aimed the camera lens at the chalk outline near the warehouse door and noticed a lingering purple haze. With a twist of the crank in his hand, time seemed to reverse, as if he was viewing the scene through the eyes of the camera operator. It took him a moment to adjust to the fast-moving blurs of color and shadows that darted past as people entered and exited the scene. He carefully followed the movements of everyone until he spotted the crew from the cadaver wagon, placing the missing body within the outline, making it appear as if a bear had attacked the person. The chalk outline quickly vanished as the detectives began their investigation. Dom continued to crank the camera, causing time to regress further into the past until the ambient light faded into the shadows of the previous evening. The detective's eyes widened in horror as he witnessed the aftermath of the museum guard's death. The guard's body had been viciously torn apart, with chunks of flesh missing and a sickening pool of blood and gore surrounding it. It was a scene out of a horror movie, with the creature responsible for this gruesome act resembling something out of a nightmare. A moment later, the creature had the guard pressed against the wall in terror. The things threatened him with strange scales as the man held his face in a rictus of horror. Dom stopped cranking. Since he started working as a detective, he had witnessed some bizarre things, but this was beyond his imagination. He was anticipating some vicious Thulian Nazis, but instead, he stumbled upon a genuine mummy, like the ones in movies. He placed the camera on a box he was hiding behind, ensuring he could still observe the crime scene through it. With both hands free, he took out his notebook and pencil from his coat and jotted down some quick notes, including a sketch of the mummy. After finishing, he cautiously put the pad and pencil down and regained possession of the camera. He played the footage in reverse, watching the dead guard being chased. Right before the first death, there was another one. The bag-o'-rags had ambushed another guard at the far end of one of the inventory rows. The poor guy didn't even get a chance to scream before the creature sliced him in half. He needed a drink. Placing the camera down again, he withdrew his trusty flask of whiskey from his back pocket. He opened it to take a swig and noticed his pad was missing. He was no longer alone. A few feet away, a solitary figure sat hunched over, flipping through Dom's notes. This person wasn't a cop. He was the same guy questioned by the beat cop at the security booth a minute ago. Dom's hand slowly reached for one of his pistols, ready to take action. However, he paused when the man spoke. The man's voice wasn't exactly a whisper but was hushed. "It's not a dog, it's a jackal," he said, his words flowing deliberately. As Dom's eyes adjusted, he noticed the man's Native American features. Snatching his notepad from the man, Dom whispered harshly, "Who do you think you are, the sketch police?" They locked eyes, the tension palpable, before the mysterious man responded. "No, you're a detective but not a police officer. You witnessed the murder. You're here to help find the killer." Dom waved his hand in defense. "You got it wrong. I'm looking for something else. I came looking for a lead in my case and bumped into King Tut's murder spree over there."
"I am Thomas,"
the man stated bluntly.
"The spirits of my ancestors tell me you have come to stop a great evil that has beset these lands."
"Buddy, the only voices I hear are the ones that come from a bottle."
Dom chuckled as he took a swig from his flask. Thomas looked disappointed but quickly shifted his attention to the warehouse. His eyes landed on Jackie, who had managed to sneak up behind Thomas, clutching a hefty Grecian vase. Dom's instincts kicked in as he closed his eyes, bracing himself for the inevitable crash. But to his surprise, it never came. When Dom cautiously opened his eyes, he saw Thomas carefully placing the ancient pottery on the ground and Jackie sprawled out on the floor. Despite being thrown off balance, Thomas had managed to stay silent, but the little troublemaker had almost blown their cover and caused a scene. Jackie's arrival caught the man's attention.
"You've got a spirit companion with you. You're a spirit warrior. You're here to vanquish evil,"
he stated matter-of-factly, like a parent assigning chores to their child.
"That's not a spirit,"
Dom retorted sharply and quietly.
"That's my partner."
Jackie grinned sheepishly from his position on the floor, his eyes shifting between the two men as they conversed.
"Your pumpkin spirit will guide you with wisdom on your journey. Don't reject its guidance."
Thomas gazed into Dom's eyes as he spoke. It should have been unsettling, but Dom knew the man believed he was right.
"Tell you what, how about I find out how that thing got in here, where it got off to, and drop a line to the PD after I leave. That'll get the cops a lead to help stop that thing."
Dom hoped the man did not realize how much of a bluff that was.
"Jackie and I are after people, not dust puppets."
Thomas crossed his arms as he continued his piercing stare.
"The police would be another meal for this creature, and you are well aware of this. The spirits tell me you do not let innocent men die. They tell me it did not leave because it cannot leave. It lies in its sarcophagus, protected from the world as the monster regains its strength."
He pointed down the first row of the warehouse shelves to a crate. A crate with the same shipping labels used for cargo. It was a crate with a pair of palms, a triangle, and the word Cairo on it. "Tell your spirits to get their nose out of my business," Dom thought to himself. Dash 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 dash. Dom peered above the lid, searching for hidden buttons or latches to gain access to the deceased.
"I'm guessing Skinny didn't check in as luggage. How did that crate get in here?"
Thomas took a few minutes to tell the detectives how the item had arrived. Dom scribbled notes about the well-dressed man and his group of dockworkers, the overweight man named Siddiqui, and the crate's arrival. He even mentioned Siddiqui's favorite diner and his desperate financial situation, discussed during a car ride with Thomas. Once Dom organized his notes, he inquired,
"Do you know if the gentleman was German?"
Thomas paused before replying,
"He walked with haste, exuded danger, and according to my ancestors, his soul is tainted with blood."
Jackie became intrigued and remarked, Seems like your boss is the troubled type. Dom affectionately tapped his partner on the head, saying, "You speak wisely, O revered spirit guide of pies long past." He asked Thomas, "When can a couple of detectives looking to take down an undead monster come in here without the presence of the police?"
Do we have more Chinese ghouls, boss? Jackie asked, puzzled by the connection he had made in his mind.
Dom's hand reached up to touch his cheek. It still throbbed painfully and was already starting to affect his mental state again. Merely mentioning his encounter at Babylon seemed to trigger the pain.
No, Jackie, not ghouls, he reassured them both. He needed to push those memories aside for now, and hopefully forever.
Zombies then?
Jackie persisted. Dom corrected his junior detective, explaining, "It's not a zombie, Jackie. It's a mummy, an ancient corpse that has been preserved and needs to be returned to its resting place so it won't harm anyone." Jackie adjusted his hat and counted.
I still think it looks like a zombie with bandages, boss.
Thomas was surprised by the conversation and asked, "You believe in the undead?" Jackie turned to face Thomas with a creepy smile and replied, "Let's say the Nazis were into some dark magic and flesh manipulation." Dom, trying to keep his cool, reminded Jackie, "It's called necromancy, Jackie. How many times do I have to tell you?" He muttered something about flesh puppets under his breath as he fought the urge to drink. The practice of necromancy was considered a sinister art that involved controlling deceased individuals or objects. Major Ashfield had taught him this and many other lessons before violent missions.
Your expertise in this area is what we need, Spirit Warrior.
Thomas said, bowing respectfully.
I formally request your assistance.
Dom was puzzled by the Native American customs and scratched his head.
If I can get some cash, I'll gladly fix this mummy problem.
Thomas nodded in agreement.
The museum will compensate you appropriately for your services.
Dom returned the nod in thanks. "If you can get us time alone with Mr. Mummy over there, we'll deal with it. After that, Jackie and I will get a line on the guys who brought it in to ensure they don't do this again." Thomas considered all the police officers in the vicinity. He was aware they wouldn't remain there indefinitely. He also knew that the unfortunate incident had resulted in the museum closing for the day, to the curator's disappointment. He suggested a plan: come back at twilight. There won't be any staff around. The police will surely have left by then. I'll let you in through the warehouse doors you sneaked through to enter.
How did you know?
Dom wondered aloud. Thomas changed the topic.
Among the men who came, there was a large individual named Siddiqui. He doesn't belong to their group. Please don't harm him. He is innocent of their crimes.
Dom was skeptical and needed evidence, but he heeded this advice as a precautionary measure. Thomas inquired about their strategy for killing the undead. Jackie enthusiastically replied, "The boss blasts massive holes in them while I apply serious pressure." Thomas raised an eyebrow skeptically, questioning if their plan would be effective. Jackie thought before responding.
Most things tend to crumble when you shoot them repeatedly.
Dom playfully messed up his partner's hat and added,
It is better because we don't have a backup plan yet.